So many of you are asking me, what are the steps to the Customs and Border Protection process? Like, where do you start? The first step you want to start is it's up here in the gray area, right? You want to make sure this is something you want to do. It sounds like a funny thing, right? Is this sure what I want to, am I sure what I want to do? Yeah, I really mean that. This is a career. It's not a job, it's a career. It's something you're going to dedicate yourself to. It requires vigilance, integrity, attention to detail, values, things of that nature. So make sure upstairs this is what you really want to do. Next thing what you want to do is you want to make sure when you submit your resume, there's a trick I teach everybody in any career field that I use, that I go to, that I teach about, is that you want to make sure your resume has some of the key words that are noted in the job you're going for, right? So like for a CBP officer, you want to have words like vigilance, words like integrity. You will see through all my videos, I always say about integrity because it's important when you wear the uniform like I did. You always have to understand you have to have integrity. Also, very important, service to country, right? You're not serving yourself. This is above you. This is something you're doing to serve the country, to serve those you care about, even serve those you don't know about, right? You are in the front line and you're serving us. So you have to understand those keywords should be in your resume somewhere. Do not submit a resume to them without having those keywords dotted within your resume there, because what happens, no human is looking at these resumes first. Not one human. What's looking at these resumes is an AI bot, and it's searching for those keywords within your resume. So before your resume even gets to a human being, the bot's going to either throw yourself in the trash or push you forward. Now, if you don't have those keywords in there, you will be in the trash, guaranteed. Put the keywords in your resume. Look at that very carefully. Stuff like vigilance, service to country, and integrity. Put those things in your resume. Will a questionable past deter you from getting a job with CBP? Now, that question is really nebulous, meaning that they don't always have a direct answer for you. So what I tell everybody, don't sit there and worry about it. If you have something in your past or a record, whatever, and you still feel like you can get by, right? Still like you can go for the job, you still feel qualified, you apply. Let them worry about your past, not you, because obviously if you're going to apply, you must feel like you qualify for the job. You can call HR sometimes and say, hey, HR, I have this, or I have something like this, or what if a misdemeanor or whatever, can I still be hired on, That's fine. But in the end, though, it's going to come down to their process, whether or not what you have in your past is going to keep you from getting that job with the CBP. This part here is very important, and I have videos here to support you. It's the entrance exam. Don't underestimate that exam. This is why I have tests here for you on my channel, is to get you ready, because people walk in, sometimes they don't practice for the exam. They sit down and they fail. They fail because they're not prepared for the exam. The entrance exam is most of it's all about situational responses. What would you do if this happened? How would you react? Do you understand what de-escalation is? Do you understand how to investigate before you arrest? They know you are a civilian. They understand that. But they still expect you to have some kind of preparation before you take their test. You have to understand that, because the test has things like logical reasoning. You're going to have some math in there, some writing skills. My test down below in the link has all that. It's 115 questions designed to prepare you for the actual test. You make a small investment and you will understand that it goes to a larger investment, right? You have to understand that they are looking for that right from the get-go. The logical reasoning, right? The de-escalation, a little bit of math, a little bit of writing. You have to have these. You cannot get yourself out of that. ChatGPT or whatever will not answer those questions for you. It's just going to be you and that test in a room. You really have to take my test more than once to understand how it works. My test, once you get it, you can take it as many times as you want to. You get an automatic grade, a percentage, and everybody gets a letter from me via email. They all do, right? And I tell you how you did in the test. I tell you what you should do again. what your weak points are, strong points are, whatever, okay? Most people pass, most people score on my test 70%. It's not very good. You want to get 80 or 85%. Yeah, but 70 is passing. Yeah, 70 is passing, right? It is passing for most people. If you score 85, 90, 95, you are going to get selected before everybody else because you have a higher score. This is what I push all the time, so you have to understand that. Next one, they are going to do a background investigation on you. Pretty basic. Look for things like felonies, right? Traffic tickets, violations. They even sometimes ask your prior employers about your behavior, your attitude, and things like that. So you should expect a background investigation, of course, right? And you have to make sure whatever you write down for your background investigation, it has to be the truth. I say that because for two reasons. The first reason is you should be honest anyway, right? But the second reason is it's going to come upon your polygraph anyway. Your answers to that background check must match because they're going to do a background, but also too, they're going to do a polygraph check to double check what you said, what you wrote down is true. Any BS you put down there, they're going to catch it, you're going to be out and gone. You don't want to have that happen. There's no room for embarrassment on a background check. Just put down the truth of what happened. We're all human, things happen. That's how you gotta do that. Next is your medical examination. It's pretty basic, right? Check your heart rate and stuff like that, do some blood tests. Usually do a CBC, RBC, check your liver functions, your kidney functions, make sure you can handle things, right? CBC is a complete blood count. So they'll check stuff like your potassium, your iron, just make sure they're getting a good product of a human being, right? So you have to make sure you pass the basics, right? If you're sound, healthy, it won't be that big of a deal. Just go through the test and do what you gotta do. Check your knees and your body and stuff like that. It's not a big deal. The next thing is your physical fitness tests. People today are still not passing that. I say too much time on social media, not enough time with the gym. So you want to get your running up there, jogging, stuff like that. Do some basic strength training. That's what you want to do because you want to be ready for your physical fitness because the training has a lot of physical fitness. You got to be fit to do your job. If you're going to stand in the front line of America, you got to be a fit person, of course, Next is this. The structured interview. So when people say structured interview, that means that everybody has the same interview. They're not going to ask you different questions from anybody else. They're asking the same questions, but looking for key responses from each person. I have a video I just did a few days ago. I'll put the link below that shows you how that works. I'm going to interview you and I give you the answers to these interview questions. It prepares you. It's all there for you. And you will see interviews like CBP, law enforcement, even firefighting, they are typically scenario-based questions nowadays, right? They're different from most other interviews because most interviews don't require these kind of questions. What would you do if? But if you're going to wear a uniform, these are important questions to ask. Again, it's going to be about decision-making, interpersonal skills, your judgment, big deals, Your job is also kind of vulnerable. So what do I mean by that? You're vulnerable to bribes. Last year they had over 130 Border Patrol people who got in trouble because they were involved in some kind of money scheme. Don't get caught up in that nonsense, right? That's why they're going to hammer you on things like your integrity, right? Your judgment, your skills to communicate, things of that nature. So you have to look at my video I made a few days ago in the link below down there. You'll see it. I want you to go do the interview. After every question, I go through the answer with you. I show you how you should do it, how it works, why they do that. It's everything there for you. I'm here to help you pass this process. Now the polygraph test. I have to laugh because sometimes they ask you very personal questions in the polygraph test, right? And you can't get around them. You have to answer them. Things like, personal habits you might have or things you might do when alone, if you understand what I'm saying. So you have to answer those questions because they might ask you those questions. It might feel embarrassing, but don't worry about it, right? You have to look down the road. The future is yours, right? You're gonna be a CBP officer for many, many years, but you gotta get through this first part first, the polygraph. Answering questions that may seem uncomfortable or embarrassing to you, but make sure they are the truth. Don't say things that are silly, you know? Do you have any weaknesses? No, I'm good, man. No, you're human. You do have weaknesses. Tell them what they are, right? If you have dreams or habits, whatever, tell them what they are. If you vape sometimes, if you drink sometimes, tell them what they are, because it's going to trigger the polygraph test. Now, the polygraph isn't admissible in court, and we all know that, right? But it is a factor that weighs in on whether you get accepted or not into the academy. It's going to weigh into the decision making for you. So just be honest. Next is your drug test. Now, I know some states cannabis is legal. Don't even take a chance like that. It's not worth it, man. You know, if you do it, don't do it. It's not worth it. You want to make sure you pass your test. Now, you may call and ask about that. You know, hey, is this okay to do before my test? Why take that risk? Why even do that? This is a great career. It's great pay. It's a great job. It's an honorable job. You go home every day knowing you've done some great work. Don't hold that up for some silly habit, you know, of that. It's not worth it, you know. 420 isn't worth your whole career. It just isn't, you know. Even if they say, yeah, we don't mind, I would still say don't do it. You know, you just want to make sure you give them the best person you can, which is you. Now, the last one here is going to be, they're going to give you a letter, right? It's going to be either the final offering or they don't want you, right? So now when I say they don't want you, it means they don't want you at that time. You can always follow up with HR and ask them where you went wrong or what happened, whatever, and you can reapply. It's not a big deal. Don't take that first hit like, oh man, I didn't get the job. No, you just didn't get the job at that time, but you could also reapply. It's not a big deal. I'll tell you what, you know, when I applied with State Patrol, I didn't get it. I was number 6 in the list. So I went to another agency. It's that easy. So what you got to remember though, but if you get the letter that says, yeah, we want you, great, 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 you're going to have to show up to a federal law enforcement training center at some time, okay? So that's it. The biggest thing here, you guys, in my video here today is I want you to practice that test. I want you to practice the interviewing as well. I'll put the links below in the video here. You have to practice those things. You have to know how to interview. There is a technique there to interviewing. It's about confidence. Knowing how to answer questions, understand the mission statement, understand that you have strengths or weaknesses, how to answer scenarios. There is a method to that. There's a way you answer those scenario-based questions. Look at the video, it'll tell you. For your test, take the pre-test I have below. I took time to make this test with exit interviews from actual test takers. I know what they're going to ask you. It's in the test itself. My pre-test, it's there. I want you to succeed. I want a part of the success for you to know that I've helped you in some way. That's my most important contribution to your career, okay? You guys, I wish you the best out there, and I hope this has helped you somehow.